Hello, I'm John Cunningham. Welcome to the RedChip Money Report. For those of you new to the show, RedChip is an investor relations, media, and research firm focusing on emerging growth companies. Our unique platform combines global multimedia with traditional investor relations, reaching investors around the world. Now, today's show features interviews with executives of 3 public companies. First, Immuron Limited, stock symbol IMRN on the NASDAQ. Immuron is a biopharma company dual listed in Australia. It is generating growing revenue from its traveler's diarrhea product, which is sold in Australia and the US, where it's currently categorized as a dietary supplement. The company plans to pursue FDA approval this fall, which could further accelerate sales growth. Immuron is also developing a growing pipeline of treatments for a variety of infectious diseases with trials underway. Later, you will see an interview with the CEO and learn more about the opportunity. Then we'll feature an interview with SGBX, stock symbol SGBX on the NASDAQ. Now, SGBX is a leading designer, fabricator, and innovator of container-based structures that provide an innovative and economical disruption to the traditional construction market. You'll learn more about the growing traction they're seeing in the market directly from the CEO. The final company featured today is SinglePoint. Their stock symbol is SING on the OTCQB. SinglePoint recently acquired Direct Solar, and in its first 60 days of operation, they've already surpassed the company's 2018 revenue. With an end-to-end solution for residential and commercial customers using a rocket mortgage-style model, Direct Solar is expected to drive significant growth for SinglePoint moving forward. You'll learn more in the interview later in the show. Now, before we get to our first interview, our quote of the week. It comes from the book, Small Stocks, Big Money. Companies are like humans. They get knocked down, they fall down. The best ones get up and they go for the rebound. Some make it, some don't. You've got to have the fortitude to see it through. This quote comes from Small Stocks, Big Money, a book of exclusive interviews with some of the biggest players in the microcap space. The book is available on our website and at Amazon.com. Now let's get to our first company interview today. It's with Immuron, stock symbol IMRN on the NASDAQ.
Gary, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
You announced successful results from your shigellosis study with the U.S. Department of Defense in June. What can you tell us about those results, and what does it mean for the company and its platform?
The announcement you're referring to involves our flagship product, Travelan. Travelan is a product that we're marketing, incidentally, in Australia, in Canada, and the U.S. We market it here as a dietary supplement, and it's been generated to work against a class of bacteria called pathogenic E. coli that produce traveler's diarrhea. Now, we've had a collaboration with the Department of Defense, the U.S. Army, over the last few years, and they were very interested in seeing whether Travelan, that was generated that we're marketing and we're looking at to reduce diarrhea, would benefit the soldiers all over the world that are suspect to shigellosis. They provided us with 3 vaccines that they've been developing over the last few years to try to develop a vaccine against Shigella. We've used this proprietary technology to generate this colostrum that we've now sent back to them, and they're working in collaboration with us to see about developing a bovine colostrum product out of our technology that will work to protect their soldiers. Now, the final element of this is I view this as a terrific endorsement of our technology.
What's the essential value proposition? Why should investors take an interest in Immuron today?
An immediate point is that we are not an antibiotic. We have this unique technology. We generate a vaccine that is against a particular antigen, like the E. coli class or like C. difficile, and then we collect the colostrum, and then we use that colostrum to treat conditions such as diarrhea, or for C. difficile to prevent the recurrent C. difficile, which is a major unmet medical need. So the business proposition really is that we are a company that has an exclusive technology. It's not an antibiotic, and there are very real reasons why the overuse of antibiotics have caused major problems for us in disturbing the microbiome. It's a great opportunity for investors who have not been aware of Immuron in the U.S. to get on board a company that has a real unique technology and opportunity to build shareholder value.
Gary, sales were up 66% in the third quarter of fiscal 2019. What's driving the growth, and do you expect it to continue?
Very importantly, we've been looking to refocus our energies in the U.S. market, and incidentally, we just launched in Canada with Travelan. Now, Travelan, as I mentioned, is our product that actually has been marketed for years in Australia as a listed medicine over there. It's marketed there to treat travelers' diarrhea. And we've refocused our energies, in particular here in the U.S. and in the Canada, where we've launched specifically to travel clinics that deal with individuals who are going to places where they can be at risk. And we've also been using podcasts over the last couple of months to really start to educate individuals in the U.S. who are not aware of the opportunity to really protect themselves against travelers' diarrhea with our product, Travelan.
Now, Gary, while you grow Travelan sales, you are also pursuing formal FDA registration of your antibody drug candidate as a drug to treat travelers' diarrhea. What's the timeline for this pathway?
That's a great point. And as I mentioned earlier, although our product in Australia is a listed medicine, here in the U.S. it's a dietary supplement. And I have a background in drug discovery, drug development. And when I came on board, I saw a media opportunity to take Travelan and take it through an FDA process for development to an approval as a drug specifically to prevent travelers' diarrhea. There's nothing on the marketplace that it has a claim to prevent travelers' diarrhea. And so with a product that already has had considerable use in Australia and we believe has an excellent safety profile, we made the decision to take this and rapidly move it through an FDA process. It's called the 505(b)(2) path towards a registration and approval. And we would then be the only company that can claim and can market this specifically to prevent travelers' diarrhea. We believe that would considerably increase the market, the commercial footprint for Travelan, and that's been now a major focus of the company.
Gary, you were awarded a patent for your C. diff treatment in April. Tell us about the development underway and your plans for FDA approval.
C. diff, it relates to our second drug candidate that is in the clinic, and that's called IMM529. Now, Travelan, as I mentioned, is directed towards preventing travelers' diarrhea, and we have it in clinical development under a different IND. The 529 is the drug candidate that involves vaccinating cows specifically against C. difficile, and then collecting the colostrum and then using it to treat people with what is called recurrent C. difficile. Now, C. difficile produces a very severe type of gastroenteritis that is life-threatening. And what is the fundamental problem is that the use of antibiotics generates an altered microbiome, which allows what would normally be a controlled bacterium such as C. difficile to take over. And when it takes over and releases its toxin, it produces a severe gastroenteritis, which can lead to death. And so it's a very severe problem, and it's considered by FDA as an unmet medical need. Now, the real problem is that when someone comes down with a C. difficile infection in the hospital, the standard of care is to use an antibiotic. The problem is when they use that against that C. difficile, which is a very hardy bacterium, they get recurrence of the condition. And every time they use the antibiotics again, which disturbs the microbiome, they get a greater percentage of recurrence. So it's a major unmet medical need. And we believe that we have a great opportunity with the IMM529 candidate that's shown terrific data in animal models, in mouse models, which are highly predictive of what we anticipate seeing in humans. And so we want to make a concerted effort to develop 529 to treat recurrent C. difficile.
Some of the company's directors recently increased their position in Immuron. We love to see insider buying, and I just want to note that for our viewers, that's always a positive sign. So today, Gary, let's recap the story. What's the main takeaway for investors?
So, in a nutshell, this is a company that has not had much visibility here in the U.S. And And that is something that I'm really looking to really correct, because I believe that this is a company that has a terrific technology. We have two major clinical candidates with great promise. We also are unique because we're not just a development stage company, we're a commercial company. We market already a product that we have marketed for a number of years with what we believe is an excellent safety profile. So what we have is a commercial footprint with a product that is growing, as well as a development program that has great potential in unmet medical need. And this is a great opportunity for those who are interested in biotech companies with great upside potential to take a good hard look at Immuron, because we believe we've got a very exciting future in the next few years.
Gary, thanks for being with us today. Great story.
Well, thank you.
Now, to get more information about Immuron, visit imrninfo.com. You'll see research reports, fact sheets, presentations, and the latest videos. It's all free. You can even subscribe to email alerts to stay on top of the latest news. You can also call 1-800-RedChip to speak to a specialist if you have any questions. Now let's go to our second company interview. It's with SGBX, stock symbol SGBX, and they're on the NASDAQ.
Paul, thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure, Dave. Thanks for having us.
Now, SGBX is a premier innovator in advancing and promoting the use of code-engineered cargo shipping containers and purpose-built steel modules. Let's start with an overview of your products.
Sure. So SGBX, as you mentioned, we're in the modular construction business, and we've approached it from a very organic and sustainable way. We repurpose shipping containers that are aggregating on our side of the oceans because of our trade imbalance, and through proprietary algorithms and engineering and experience, we convert those intermodal units of transportation into intermodal units of construction.
What is the essential value proposition? Why should investors take an interest in SGBX today?
That's a great question. Number one, everybody understands what a huge vertical construction is. It represents an enormous part of our economy. Almost everyone's business intersects with construction, whether or not they're gifted or skilled at being able to do it. So the value proposition for SGBX is that we have proprietary technology, we have access to exclusive inventory, we're a market leader, we have 70 million plus in signed contracts in our backlog, and we have the premier innovative project in construction. We're living in the era of major construction problems, which gets expressed in our society as a housing crisis. People are building at $500 or $600 per square foot in urban markets, and we're never going to be able to house businesses and students and families and millennials. That price point won't work. So our value proposition is we're undervalued as a stock. We offer our clients a better product in half the time in an eco-sensitive way. And we believe that traditional construction has had a monopoly long.
Talk to us about your business model. How does the company make money?
So we operate as a platform. The proof is in the pudding, and we have some nice-sized projects to bring to market, which I think will be catalytic in opening the doors for the rest of our business model. We provide an end-to-end sustainable solution for people that want to develop real estate for themselves or for their businesses. So what we do is we can take a concept from, I have this piece of property, it's zoned for this, and we can take you all the way through and give you the keys at the back end. And in between, we can do as much or as little of that work, depending on the sophistication and the support network of the client. So we have the capacity to deliver everything. We target 20% margins. Our value proposition on the client side is that rather than building with prevailing wage in 110 degrees in the West Coast and 20 degrees below zero on the East Coast, we can build at a very modest wage in 68 degrees in Texas and Pennsylvania and give you better quality, made out of steel, and our structure stacked 9 high. The majority of the construction market in America is 10 stories and below, except super big buildings in super big cities. So we are a part of that movement in the modular construction that knows the only way to disrupt traditional construction is to do it prefabricated, and we're well on our way to doing that.
You recently announced your 2019 first quarter financial results with an increased top-line revenue performance and gross margin expansion. Talk to us about the growth in revenues and discuss your 2019 goals.
So the 2019 goals is to get top line revenue to double plus or minus from last year, which was 8 million in sales. Our margin for the first quarter was over 30%, but we traditionally target 20%. We have a very large project in our backlog, which we've been working on for a couple of years. It's a $55 million workforce housing project in the Monticello, New York area. We have a lot of time and effort invested in that, and we think that'll really tell the story both to the marketplace and to the consumers of our product that you can go green, do modular, hit great price points, and most importantly, deliver a structure that's earthquake and hurricane resistant in this day and age of crazy weather events related to climate.
What is the major difference in your products and your competitors?
The number one competitor we buffer up against is always traditional construction, who has had their foot in the door. It's typically privately owned and multi-generational. So that's what we compete against. Of all the forms of modular construction, we're most comfortable with the containers because A, it's a recycled material, and B, it's the only form of construction where you actually start with a finished module built to a 120-page specification called the Convention for Safe Containers. And what we're doing is applying algorithms to deconstruct it, while all other forms of modular construction have to start by actually building the base frame. And it doesn't make economic sense for them to build what an 8x40 container is 8,000 pounds empty. It is really meant to be robustly challenged in the built environment.
Paul, to recap today, what's the main takeaway for investors?
If you're looking to get in on a great stock who's undervalued, whose backlog is going to unfold over the next 8 quarters, if you're interested in the next thing, and if you want to be a part of the disruption of traditional construction, which has not yet happened, visit SGBX, follow our story, because we're the future of construction.
Paul, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Now, to get more information about SG Blocks, call us at 1-800-RedChip, or you can email us at info@redchip.com. Now let's get to our third interview today. It's with SinglePoint, stock symbol SING on the OTCQB.
Greg, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, hey, thanks for having me.
You've reported your direct solar acquisition is performing above expectations. Can you give us an update on results since the date of the acquisition?
Yeah, so I guess about a week ago, we were able to report the first 60 days. We did $3 million worth of contracts, probably close to around 1.7 million of net revenue, and somewhere around 700,000 of gross, actual profit. So pretty amazing. As we talked about, we bought this company in 2018, and they did 1.5 million. So the first 60 days, they did 3 million worth of contracts. So we're looking at a trajectory rate of, maybe 6-7 million this year, and maybe 10 to 12 million for the following 12 months. So pretty amazing.
And looking at the big picture, what's the essential value proposition? Why should investors take an interest in SinglePoint today?
Well, I mean, you can see that, in the past year or two, we've acquired a couple of smaller companies. We learned a lot. And now we acquired this company that is really growing like a hockey stick. One of the other things about direct solar is that we've also put together an agreement with a funder to do over 100 million in funding of commercial projects. So that's the next step. Instead of doing $30,000 residential jobs, we're looking at doing, $250,000, $500,000, $1 million jobs. So this company really, has the potential to go to 20, 50 million. So that's on the direct solar side. Now, the other thing that we're really focused on is, of course, the CBD and the hemp. We're close to making a pretty major announcement on a pure hemp cigarette that is really sweeping the country. A lot of people are smoking hemp flower out there, and really it could be a replacement for cigarettes.
Well, the market is huge, obviously, for that product. So we'll look forward to seeing how that develops. Let's talk more about the business model of direct solar. What makes it unique in the market?
Well, it's such a great question, because what the gentleman did is he he was doing about 10 million, and I have to give him a lot of credit. He had, he was in 8 states with warehouses and trucks and employees. And what he really did was he took a step back and he decided we're going to do the Rocket Mortgage business plan, or the 1-800-Flowers, or the Uber or vacation rental. So essentially, what we're doing is we get the customer, and when we get that customer, we ask them, have you thought about solar? Well, yes. We bring them the finance, we bring them all the rebates that they have in that state, and we bring them the installer. So we hold that customer's hand from A to Z. There's a company, private company in Canada, that has the same model that is doing over 300 million.
Well, you've launched a lending solution, which you alluded to earlier, to support the growth of direct solar. What type of traction are you seeing with this initiative?
Well, we're seeing exactly what we thought. And of course, this is a subsidiary that's run on its own. They probably have, 30 employees, but Pablo Diaz, he's the expert, and he came to us and he said, listen, there is a huge need for financing for commercial projects. It's not that these business owners, these small business owners, it's not that they don't want solar. Up until this point, no one had the financing in place. Most of the residential finance comes from Wall Street. And of course, the huge funding of big solar projects that you see out in the desert, that's coming from large corporations. So there's this middle ground of small business owners that would like to put solar on their business to save money, that just never had the financing in place. So once we got the financing in place, and in the last 2 weeks, we've been contacting these commercial businesses, it's been a phenomenal success already.
Well, how big is the market for direct solar, both commercial and residential?
Well, the market for solar is enormous. From my knowledge, it's been around for a while, and it kind of had a hockey stick growth, and then it slowed down a little bit. But what's happening now, and we're especially doing well, for example, in Chicago and St. Louis, we're doing great. The reason is because the government has phenomenal rebates. So when we're talking to a customer about putting solar in, and we're saying, listen, the government's going to pay for 70%, and the other 30, we're going to help you find financing for. This is, pretty easy decision at that point.
Greg, to recap, what's the main takeaway for investors today? Why should they consider investing in your company today?
I think one of the things that makes us different is solar is a business that is just going in the right direction. I guess the best way to answer this question is we're going to show phenomenal growth in revenue. If we show, 5 million, and, our market cap is somewhere around 25 million today, if we went from 1.5, 2 cents to 10 cents, you're looking over 100 million market cap, which is very feasible with the revenues that we're going to show.
Absolutely. Greg, thank you so much for being with us today.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, to get more information about SinglePoint, visit SinglePointInfo.com. You'll see research reports, fact sheets, presentations, and the latest videos. It's all free, and you can even subscribe to email alerts to stay on top of the latest news. You can also call 1-800-RedChip to speak to a specialist if you have any questions. Now let's recap the 3 public companies we met with today. First, you saw an interview with Immuron, stock symbol IMRN on the NASDAQ. Immuron is a revenue stage biopharma. Its revenues were up 66% in the most recent quarter, and growth is expected to continue in the near term. Immuron also has a robust development pipeline that could provide significant further upside from positive trial results. Learn more at imrninfo.com. Then SGBX, stock symbol SGBX on the NASDAQ. SGBX is disrupting the traditional market for commercial and even residential construction. Its container-based systems provide lower costs and quicker build times while reducing environmental impact. Large projects are underway and revenue could accelerate moving forward. Call us at 1-800-RedChip to learn more. The final company featured today is SinglePoint. The recent acquisition in direct solar is exceeding expectations and is expected to top $5 million in new solar contracts in the third quarter. Now, combined with the company's growing operations in the multi-billion-dollar CBD space, SinglePoint represents a compelling opportunity. Learn more at singlepointinfo.com. Again, if you have any questions about today's featured companies, please call us at 1-800-RedChip or email us at info@redchip.com. I'm John Cunningham. Thanks for being with me today. And remember, while small caps can provide significant gains, you must be prepared for the downside. Many of the companies featured on this show are RedChip client companies, so please always read our disclosures at redchip.com. Thank you for being with us today.